Join us at Women of Courage and celebrate the achievements of women. Hello, this is the Women of Courage show, and I am Gloria Lee, your host. For the most part, almost all of our broadcasts are dedicated to trying to get men and women to focus their attention to changing their behavior to live a better life. You must understand your change is essential to the well-being and survival of your children. We want children to avoid the profession of prostitution and living a life in prison. When you change, you will see the possibilities available to you. You do not have to continue to live a life that you hate and a life that you are truly ashamed of. Poverty does not have to define you. Let your strength and perseverance define you. You can listen to us at home, in your car, or at work on your lunch hour. It is essential that you get a daily dose of encouragement every day. Just a few minutes a day of listening to us can make learning effortless. You can even listen to us while you're preparing dinner or just as you are about to fall asleep. We want you to fit our broadcast into your day. This is why we put all of our broadcasts on the YouTube channel Touched by the Light Publishing. Our goal is to inspire you to greatness. So give Women of Courage a listen to throughout the week, and please support us by purchasing a book today from our website, touchedbythelight.us. Thank you. In the upcoming months, I am going to change our format significantly. This year we will exhaust 3 subjects: breast cancer in black women, voting, and the subjects for black men. Each of these ideas and subjects is essential for the black community. Our survival depends on the health of black women, our willingness to vote, no matter what, and the fortitude and determination of black males to develop. We might as well face it. The survival of any community depends on the mental and physical health of both the female and male. Children need both their father and mothers, and the community needs happy, substantial families to survive. No culture can survive without either. I want you to join me in our discussions. I want women to realize that the survival of their children is the only proof that they ever existed. Think about what I just said. Your children are the only proof that you ever existed on this earth. So when you are careless about your health and die before your time, the survival of your children is greatly reduced, because they will be placed in foster care where they can be abused mentally and physically. I want men to join in learning about breast cancer and try to save the lives of their mothers, sisters, aunts, cousins, and grandmothers. I want men to begin to listen to subjects that can greatly improve their lives. I am going to play certain speeches regarding the need to vote. There will be speeches of Obama, Stacey Abrams, and others. I am also going to discuss Shirley Chisholm, Constance Baker Motley. She is the first African American woman to ever become a federal judge. All in all, I hope you will enjoy the new format and be greatly encouraged in your life. Also, thank you for listening and growing with us.
And good evening, everyone. We have a big hour ahead, including the latest on the mess in Arizona, with new warnings from election observers and Tucker Carlson's absurd new comments about COVID vaccines that show that he doesn't know much about science or history. We'll begin the readout tonight with America's existential crisis. Later this month, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer will bring the For the People Act, the Democrats' signature anti-corruption and voting rights reform bill, to the floor for a vote. It can't come soon enough, as Republican-led legislatures across the country have introduced nearly 400 bills that limit voting access, an anti-voting wave that this country has not seen since the end of Reconstruction. In his new cover piece for Mother Jones, Ari Berman writes that much of what we are witnessing is a concerted attempt to end the second Reconstruction, which began after the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Much like the post-Reconstruction era, today's Republican Party, the party of white grievance, is rewriting the rules of American democracy to protect conservative white political power from the rising influence of new demographic groups. And unless something is done now, the damage could be irreparable. On Tuesday, President Biden, recognizing the moment and signaling a new phase in the pressure campaign, called out two obstinate members of his own party.
This sacred right is under assault with incredible intensity like I've never seen, with an intensity and aggressiveness that we've not seen in a long, long time. It's simply un-American. I hear all the folks on TV saying, why doesn't Biden get this done? Well, because Biden only has a majority of effectively 4 votes in the House and a tie in the Senate, with 2 members of the Senate who vote more with my Republican friends.
In the face of this 4-alarm fire, one of those unnamed senators, Arizona's Kyrsten Sinema, doubled down on her support for the filibuster. Sinema, calling herself a happy warrior for bipartisanship, and speaking like someone who frankly has the luxury of not being personally impacted by these oppressive laws, repeated her refusal to budge on the filibuster.
To those who say we must make a choice between the filibuster and X, I say this is a false choice. The reality is that when you have a system that's not working effectively, and I would think that most would agree that the Senate's not a particularly well-oiled machine, right? The way to fix that is to change your behavior. Not to eliminate the rules or change the rules, but to change your behavior.
The other unnamed senator, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, continues to be a fellow Ahab, forever hunting the mythical creature called bipartisanship. He told reporters to keep the faith in this damn Senate, and we'll make it work out. Make it bipartisan. Keep the faith in what? Just last Friday, 35 Senate Republicans came together to kill a bipartisan bill supported by the majority of the American public to create a commission to investigate the most violent attack on our democracy in modern American history. In simpler terms, there will never be 10 Senate Republicans willing to overcome a filibuster because of what their leader told us.
100% of my focus is on standing up to this administration. What we have in the United States Senate is total unity from Susan Collins to Ted Cruz in opposition to what the new Biden administration is trying to do to this country.
Okay, did you hear that? 100%. And that leaves us, frankly, confused as to why Manchin and Sinema care more about the will of the Republican Party than about the will of the American people. Joining me now is Al Franken, former senator from the state of Minnesota and host of the Al Franken podcast, and Christina Greer, associate professor of political science at Fordham University. And, Senator Franken, I have to go to you first because, I've never worked with these people. I don't know these people, but I can't think of an explanation for what Manchin and Sinema are doing unless it is that they actually prefer that Republicans control the process and maybe that Republicans control the Senate. Or that they themselves don't even maybe plan to run for re-election and are looking to their next thing, which they think is going to take place in a right-wing Republican-controlled world. They're just preparing themselves basically to be the smoking man on the X-Files and let the other guys win. I don't know another explanation, do you?
I want to read their minds, but this is different. This is an existential threat. This is a threat to our democracy. What the Republicans passed nationwide, but just look at Arizona, where not only are they suppressing votes, which is something they traditionally do to try to get people they don't want to vote. What they're actually doing is trying to give the authority to Republican officials to overturn elections. In Arizona, they've given the authority to determine who won the election. They've changed it from the Secretary of State to the Attorney General. in this legislation, and that expires in January of 23 because they don't know who's going to win the Attorney General and who's going to win the Secretary of State. This is different. This is not whether, to cover orthodonty in the ACA. This is democracy. And I would make the case to Joe Manchin, and especially on this bill, because I hear Sinema is for it, but also on the filibuster, obviously, that we either need to get, Joe has said he won't get rid of it. Sinema has said she won't get rid of it. Norm Ornstein and I have been working on a modification that I think would work in stopping this. And I'll let the professor weigh in here so I don't, talk too much.
No, we want you to talk. We want you to talk. I mean, the thing is, Christina Greer, Kyrsten Sinema knows everything that Al Franken just said. Mm-hmm. She understands what's happening in her own state. Right. I can only conclude that she supports what they're doing and wants it to proceed because she says she's on the bill. She's a co-sponsor. That's real convenient to let her show up at black churches on MLK Day so she can cover herself that way. But I cannot conclude other than that what she sees happening that Republicans are doing, she's for it because she's not for changing it. She's not for stopping it. I don't know what else to conclude.
Well, 2 words, Joy, primaries matter, because just as you said, she will be more than happy to show up in particular communities when the primary season comes around to talk about certain legislation that she, mealy-mouthed supported. But on really important questions of our democracy, as Senator Franken has pointed out, she's just been an adversary to the Democratic Party. And we know that there is great ideological diversity within the Democratic Party. We talk about this with Black politics all the time. We are the welcoming tent. There are several shades of blue. We understand that, but we cannot have senators, Democratic senators, who are actively working against the American people. And that is what we're seeing with Sinema and Manchin when they refuse to support their colleagues, their Democratic colleagues, when it comes to really assessing what the filibuster has done and how it prevents, especially with Mitch McConnell and his caucus, how it prevents the American public from moving forward in a real substantive way. The fact that they're voting against the January 6th Commission should be proof enough alone to let us know that these individuals are not interested in the health and wealth and continuation of this American democracy.
Yeah, and Senator Franken, look, apparently the new strategy, you have Vice President Harris is going to be leading the administration efforts. They're putting her on the field. You've got the NAACP preparing to go and, meet with Manchin. They're basically throwing the full African-American coalition at Manchin because right now it's Senator Cory Booker that's out there. It's Reverend Warnock out there meeting with them. They're throwing... I don't see how that moves him. He doesn't need African-American votes to win. It's a 7% black state. Does that work? I don't see how that works, but you tell me if you think differently.
Let me describe what Norm and I have been working on for 12 years now, and we've modified the modification. This is what it would be. Right now, if you look at that vote on the January 6th Commission, they only got 35 to stop it. But they didn't need 35. They didn't need any. They needed 1, I guess. Yeah. They needed someone to show up. But we needed 60. This modification is they have to show up, and there have to be 41 votes. They have to keep a filibuster going. But not just that. They have to stay there. And it has to be a talking filibuster. And they have to stay there. And they can stay there a day. They can stay there 2 days. There's 50 of them. 41 have to be there at some point, all day, all night. By my math, each of them would get 5 hours off. You do that for 2 or 3 days, Chuck Grassley gets a little tired of that. Mitch McConnell gets a little tired of that. Plus, the American people get to hear them debate, and they get to hear the Republicans take the pro side on why it should be a crime to give someone a glass of water or give them water in a line. I want to see that debate. I want to have the American people see that debate. And I want to make Jim Inhofe and Mitch McConnell stay there. Believe me, I've been in this body. They don't want to stay there, and they're not going to. And this, before, filibusters were people like Strom Thurmond were for the exact opposite reason. They were wrong, bad reasons. This is about our democracy. And if we lose this one, if we allow this to overturn elections, elected Republican officials to overturn elections, our democracy goes away. It wouldn't be Hitler. It wouldn't have been Tojo. Wouldn't have been the Confederacy. It'd be Mitch McConnell who ended our democracy.
Well, and Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. Sorry, I can't not fault them.
I am going to pause for a second to take a short break while you listen to information regarding willpower and encouragement. It is all a matter of learning new behaviors. And please remember, it is easier to build strong minds than to repair injured people. What I said is a modification of a quote by Frederick Douglass. He said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Now for my break. Hello, this is Minister Gloria Lee from the Women of Courage Show. I want you to prepare to vote. That is correct. I want you to make up in your mind, come hell or high water, that you will vote in every election that is held in the state of Michigan, regardless of how long the voting lines are and regardless of the weather. Your vote is important. That is why you need to take some water with you and a small stool to sit on. Your vote will determine the property tax we pay, the car insurance that we pay, the housing that is available for seniors, the schools our children will attend. Your vote will determine the number of new job openings, the number of hospitals and hotels in our city. Your vote will determine the policies at our universities and the police force. Never assume that your vote does not count. Voting is the most essential activity that you will ever participate in your life. People have died so you can vote. Elections comes down to voter turnout, so stand in line and make your vote count. I would like for you now to listen to a short speech by John Lewis on voting. Listen to what he has to say and note the passion in his voice.
The Democratic National Convention has gavelled into session on this day 3, beginning about an hour ago. Let's go straight to the floor, where veteran Georgia Congressman and civil rights pioneer John Lewis is speaking.
Or do you want to keep America moving forward? My dear friends, your vote is precious, almost sacred. It is the most powerful non-violent tool we have to create a more perfect union. Not too long ago, people stood in unmovable lines. They had to pass a so-called literacy test, pay a poll tax. On one occasion, a man was asked to count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap. On another occasion, one was asked to count the jelly beans in a jar, all to keep them from casting their ballot. Today, it is unbelievable that there are Republican officials are trying to stop some people from voting. They are changing the rules, cutting polling hours and imposing a requirement intended to suppress the vote. The Republican leader in the Pennsylvania House even bragged that his state's new voter ID law is going to allow Governor Romney to win the state. That's not right. That's not fair, and that is not just. And similar efforts have been made in Texas, Ohio, Florida, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and South Carolina. I've seen this before. I lived this before. Too many people struggled, suffered, and died to make it possible for every American to exercise their right to vote. We have come too far together to ever turn back. So Democrats, we must not be silent. We must stand up, and speak out. We must march to the polls like never, ever before. We must come together and exercise our sacred right. And together, on November 6th, we will re-elect the man who will lead America forward, President Barack Obama.
For the past 2 months, I have discussed breast cancer in Black women. Recently occurred to me that I had not heard from males in the area. Not one man had written or called me for information on breast cancer, nor has any male volunteered to help our breast cancer campaign. This caused me to wonder why. I hope the answer is not that males think breast cancer is a woman's issue. It's not. It's a family issue. It's a marriage issue. It's a community issue. It is an issue that concerns us all. The loss of one member of our community is devastating. Everyone is affected by the death, either directly or indirectly. The death of a parent can lead to angry children and devastated husbands. The death of a parent can lead a child to criminal behavior. Breast cancer is serious business, not just because of the death, but because of the aftermath, the horror breast cancer leaves behind. This is why, as a community, this disease must be fought at all costs by all of us. You have mothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and granddaughters, all at risk for breast cancer. Yes, women die of other diseases, but breast cancer is the most insidious disease of them all. I noticed I have not seen one man download the PDF file, Black Women and Breast Cancer, and send the file to any of his female relatives or friends for that matter. Why? You are concerned. So I would like for you to participate with me. Go to https://nisv.info and download the PDF file Black Women and Breast Cancer and send it to 5 of your friends. Also, please sit down and read the booklet. It's filled with information. One of the most important things about the disease is that we understand it. By understanding the disease, we can ask more informed questions of our doctors. Do you know how many people die or are injured each year because they take medication improperly? There is a reason why pharmacists insist on putting warning in our medication. This is why it's important that you learn to read. Medication errors are a problem with people who cannot read or are afraid to ask their doctor questions because they don't want to appear stupid. When you go in to see your doctor, it's not your job to try to impress him or her. You want their talents to impress you. So if you don't understand something, say so, and ask all the questions you need to feel comfortable taking your medicine or understanding your illness. The same with your pharmacist. Ask him or her questions until you feel comfortable taking your medication, and you know how to take your medication properly. I received a medication in the mail. I did not know how to take it. I read the directions, but it was not clear to me how to take the medication properly. I was truly frustrated because I knew I was a competent reader. I drove down to the VA Medical Center and asked the pharmacist to show me how to take my medication. The pharmacist didn't say a word, but she came out, sat down, and demonstrated how I was to take my medication. And she discussed the actions the medication would have on my body. I left her knowing more than I did when I arrived. On another occasion, I received a phone call from a pharmacist, and she told me immediately to stop taking 2 of my medication because there was a contradiction. Both medications had been prescribed by doctors, but it was the pharmacist who noted that error. So don't feel stupid asking questions of your doctor or pharmacist. That is their job, to help you with the care of your body. This is why the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer is so important. It's filled with information. The information is presented in such a way as to make you aware of what you did not know or understand. This awareness should prompt you to ask questions of your physician. All cancers are not the same. This is why family history is so important. The booklet was also written to let Black women know that their cancer can be more virulent and more progressive than others. The book was also written to inspire Black women to become more involved in the research of their particular breast cancer. Who's doing the research? Where is the research being conducted? And how is this research being funded? And by whom? I believe we can have a significant breakthrough with cancer if Black women become more aggressive in funding research. Join us to support our campaign by purchasing a book. See our advertisement. We have great gifts for men.
This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Once again, I am disappointed in Joe Manchin. I'm not going to sit here and say that he doesn't love his country. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a bad guy. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a racist. But I am going to sit here and say he's teaming up with Mitch McConnell to scuttle voting rights reform, to strengthen voting rights in the United States. He is standing against the interest of Black and brown Americans in an effort to sidle up to Republicans who have no concern for democracy in America in 2021. That is what's happening. A quote from Joe Manchin: "I will vote against the For the People Act." It's from an op-ed that he wrote recently, from which I will read a little bit in a little bit. I'm not going to go over exactly what the For the People Act entails. There will be a link to it in the description below. The Brennan Center for Justice has an annotated guide going through everything that's in the bill that involves strengthening early voting and securing easy instant voter registration. There isn't anything in the bill that's controversial. There isn't anything in the bill that should be opposed by Republicans. The only reason you would oppose a bill that strengthens voting rights is if you are opposed to voting. And why would they be opposed to voting? I think the answer is clear. It is a party of white supremacy that wants to chip away at the ability and the ease and the rights of Black and brown Americans to vote. That's what we're seeing in Texas. That's what we're seeing in Georgia. That's what we're seeing all over the country with state Republican legislatures. Joe Manchin's doing this under the guise of, we need bipartisanship. But you can't, listen, opposing voting rights because not enough Republicans agree and you want everybody on board is like saying black citizens of America aren't equal. That, I really agree that they should be able to sit at the lunch counter with whites, that they should be able to drink out of the same water fountain as whites. But listen, I can't get on board with it until Republicans agree too. That is nonsense. Certain things, listen, I've talked about this on my podcast. If you want to disagree and bicker and fight and stall on an infrastructure bill, policy like that, have at it. That's fine. That is politics. That's the inner workings of our government and how we fund things. But to oppose basic civil rights, you don't get the same pass. And that is what Joe Manchin is doing. Palling around with Mitch McConnell, the recalcitrant tool, the obstructionist, by his own moniker, the Grim Reaper, and opposing democracy. I'm going to read from this article from the Huffington Post. Mondaire Jones, Manchin would rather preserve Jim Crow for bipartisanship. Despite growing support among Democrats to abolish the filibuster, Manchin has remained vocally opposed to such a move, stating in his op-ed that he will not vote to weaken or eliminate the filibuster because he wants to seek bipartisan compromise, no matter how difficult, and to develop the political bonds that end divisions and help unite the country we love, unquote. However, Republicans have already shown that they plan to pass their own partisan legislation at the state level and use the filibuster at the federal level to block any legislation that requires them to compromise. Republican state legislators across the country are passing voter suppression laws under the guise of former President Donald Trump's lies that the 2020 election was fraudulent. Senate Republicans in Congress filibustered a bipartisan bill that would have established a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol. And that, too, was done away with. So I'm going to read from his op-ed, read right from Joe Manchin. These are his words. He penned. There's no spin to put on them. This is not taken out of context. This is Joe Manchin talking about the voting rights bill. I believe that partisan voting legislation will destroy the already weakening binds of our democracy. And for that reason, I will vote against the For the People Act. Furthermore, I will not vote to weaken or eliminate the filibuster. For as long as I have the privilege of being your U.S. Senator, I will fight to represent the people of West Virginia, to seek bipartisan compromise, no matter how difficult, and to develop the political bonds that end divisions and help unite the country we love. American democracy is something special. It is bigger than one party or the tweet-filled partisan attack politics of the moment. It is my sincere hope that all of us, especially those who are privileged to serve, remember our responsibility to do more to unite this country before it is too late. Well, Senator Joe Manchin, respectfully, sir, that is dumb shittery. That is nonsense. Basic human civil rights in a democratic society take precedence over bipartisanship. You want to compromise with people who don't feel that Black Americans have the same rights and access to the franchise as you do. Why do we care what their opinion is? The Democrats are in power. An election was held. They hold the majority. And you don't want to fiddle with the filibuster, which takes 60 votes before you can even have a vote. We need Republicans on board to even decide whether to hold a vote. That's what the filibuster is. So Joe Manchin is a radical disappointment. I don't think it's a stretch to say that he is anti-democracy, which I guess would make him a bad guy. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. I was going to play a clip, an extended clip from Chris Wallace's show on Fox News, but I'm going to forego that. It's just more of the same of him jockeying and trying to explain away, talking about how friendly he is with Republicans and we need their support too. No, we don't. No, we do not. Call, leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. You can email me daily at dollemore.com. I'd love to know what you think about this. You can also, if you are in a financial position to do so, you don't have to budget it in. It's not a problem. If you'd like to support my work, I would welcome that. You can click the join button, and for $2 a month, you can help support my work right here on the platform. Me yammering about the news, sometimes intellectually, and other times not. Today was kind of in the middle, I think. Follow me on social media. I'd love to connect with you there. I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. And I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.
Hi, I decided that at the end of every show for the next year, I would share excerpts from a book that I believe would enhance your life and make you a stronger thinker and problem solver. All characteristics that will help you win at life and raise stronger and healthy children. Many of you turn your nose up at reading, or you snub the advice that you must read in life to succeed, or you compare the cost of a book to getting a new pair of shoes or getting your hair done or your nails done. The reason why you make these cost comparisons is because you do not truly value a book. A book is a magnificent instrument that can change the course of your life and the lives of your children. In later shows, I plan to discuss with you how a book changed the lives of certain people. I understand that you do not earn a lot of money, and this money is valuable to you because of all the things you see advertised that you desire, and you do not want to spend a lot of money on a book. A new pair of shoes is more valuable to you than a book. If you truly cannot afford a book, then you need to go to the library and take your children with you for a day of reading. You must gird your loins and proceed at educating yourself. Some of you seem to think that having a conversation with your stupid girlfriend or your stupid boyfriend will help you more than reading a book, when actually having a conversation with your loudmouth girlfriend or loudmouth boyfriend is merely a cathartic, allowing you to blow off steam and proclaim how life has been so unfair to you. What you do not realize is that the advice coming from your do-nothing girlfriend or your do-nothing boyfriend is advice coming from a fool. Your do-nothing girlfriend is a sexual opportunist looking for a man she can impress with her body. When her vagina fails her, what will your girlfriend do but go to work at McDonald's or Wendy's at the age of 60 and continue to spread her ignorance at church? Her daughter will be on the street and her son in prison. She will never realize that her life is the result of the decision she made not to educate herself through reading. All her life, she felt that she had something better to do than reading. She had something better to do than reading with her children. She had something better to do than working with her children. And that was going to the bar, trying to entertain a man, or trying to find some man that would buy her a pair of shoes. A man spending money on her was more important than educating herself. In later shows, I'm going to spend a great deal of time giving you some examples of fools. These are people who think they are smart, willing to trade their body and integrity for a dollar bill. These people end up in the cemetery after lamenting each and every day of their lives about their unfulfilled dreams. Do not be upset by the use of the word fool. You tell me if a woman is not a fool to instruct her grandson to kill her husband for a $25,000 life insurance. Let that sink in for a moment. Instead of instructing her grandson to make something of his life, the grandmother instructs her grandson to become a murderer, to kill his grandfather. I have this anecdotal advice for you about reading. Listen to this short true story. A friend and I were talking. She said a woman she knew called her and sought to renew their friendship. During their conversation, the woman told my friend that President Trump had done so much for black people, and that's why she voted for him in 2016, and she was going to vote for him again in the upcoming election. My friend asked her a question. She said, "Tell me some of the things that Trump has done for black people." The woman said, "A whole lot." My friend persisted and asked her to name one thing that Trump had done for black people. The woman could not. The woman kept using the phrase, "a whole lot of things." My friend said after a while she stopped talking. Finally, the conversation was over and my friend hung up. My friend said, as she hung up, she made up her mind right then that she would never renew her friendship with this woman. Now ask yourself why. Why would she not renew her friendship with this woman? You can answer this question in 2 words. The woman was a poor thinker. She never investigated anything that was told to her. Whether you know it or not, a person who is a poor thinker, who does not examine his or her thinking, is a very dangerous person indeed. Think about it. Today we're going to discuss a popular book entitled The Devil's Cauldron. On the first page of the book, The Devil's Cauldron, the author says, "Do not let the book title frighten you." The book has nothing to do with black magic, voodoo, or any other dark practice. The book was written to demonstrate that some people have a filthy mind and are unaware that their thoughts are filthy. Once you read the book, you will know if you are one of these people and why. Why else would a woman conduct a campaign to steal another woman's husband if she was not evil? Why else would a man sneak behind his best buddy's back and sleep with his wife if he was not evil? You will not want to put this book down. It is a fascinating read for sure. The mind can be a sewer, yet evil thoughts are not always profitable or beneficial. Evil thoughts can lead to your ruin. The author then asks the reader a question. In fact, she asks the reader several questions. She says, are you having an awful time at life? Are you unhappy with the way your life is going? Are you unhappy with the way that you are living? Do you feel like you're the only person feeling this way? Are you constantly being pressured to make one decision after another with no end in sight? Do you wish that you could start all over again and meet new people? Do you want to make differences in your life and you do not know how? Do you feel like no one is listening to you? Do you feel like no one understands you and what you're going through? If you feel this way, then it's about time for you to change. That is correct. It is about time for you to change. It is about time for you to disengage yourself from the world system and try God. It's just that simple, because the world is leading you astray. If you have finally decided to give up and are at your wit's end, then it is time for you to try God. You have tried all of the world systems to no avail, so maybe it is time for you to try God. You do not have to worry about failing, because God will show you the way to prosperity, health, and wealth. You can be a success at life. He will improve your family's relationships. He will move you to a better neighborhood. He will see you through college. And he will find you a successful mate. But what about your evil thoughts? These thoughts will have to change. Change does not have to be seen as something awful that one must endure. Change can be an enjoyable process, especially if you are hopeful and have a vision of the person you will become. Do not be like those people who are always thinking negative or forecast gloom and doom at every turn. You can bring happiness and peace into your life by changing. The author says you can bring peace and happiness into your life by changing your associates, changing where you do business, changing your employer after receiving a better education. You can change your home life by renewing your commitment to your wife or husband. Change is possible in every facet of your life. If you begin to be hopeful, you can look forward to a new day. Hope will enter your life through the Word of God. So begin to study God's Word and expect good things to come into your life, even in the midst of danger. Now, that's a powerful statement made by the author. She says that you can expect good things to come into your life even in the midst of danger. That means in the midst of a pandemic. You read the Word of God and you are led to change. Embrace this feeling and be confident that renewal is a possibility in your life. You can become a new person. The author tells her audience that the book, The Devil's Cauldron, was written to give men and women some of the same tools that she used to fight for her life. Men and women have to fight and fight just to be given the same opportunities as other educated, wealthy men to develop their lives. Women are constantly told you must be beautiful. You must be pretty to make it in your life. You must have a large buttocks. You must have a large breast to make it. Men have to like you if you're going to be somebody. You are no one if you are not married. Women are constantly told what to do and how to do it every day by the church. The church is on a mission to bring women back under control. The church tries to indoctrinate the mothers so their girls cannot play basketball or baseball. They don't get the same education as boys. Female children are not encouraged to attend college so they can seek jobs in corporate America, because these jobs should be given to men, because men are the ones responsible for providing for the family. This is all wickedness. This is all evil people talking. Why should the church conduct a campaign to enslave the minds of women? What benefit does the church derive from trying to deny women their rights and custody to their own bodies? The author goes on to say, if I have learned anything in this life, it is that one must always move forward and play the hand that life has dealt. I wrote this book as a quick reference for people who become depressed during their day. You may want to carry this booklet with you every day so you can constantly remind yourself of God's promises. You may feel frustrated because you married a man who could not manage his money. So you are taking your anger out on yourself or on him. He didn't tell you to marry him. He asked you to marry him. There's a difference. Instead of being mad at yourself for marrying him and taking it out on him, look for a solution. If a man can come on television and tell you to take a purple pill for what ails you, and you follow his advice, then you definitely can follow the advice to save your life. There is no right or wrong answer, but there is always a better answer. But it requires thinking to get to the better answer. Let the weak say, I am strong. Joel chapter 3, verse 10. You do not have to participate in evil deeds. You do not have to have evil thoughts. It's up to you to make the change. It's up to you to stop looking at about what other people have and start trying to develop your life for yourself, for your children, and your spouse. The book, The Devil's Cauldron, is a rough read, but it will definitely not only entertain you, but bring you insight into the minds of how people think. The best thing that you could do for yourself today is go to the website, touchedbythelight.us, and read the first chapter of this book. You will be definitely glad that you did.
Congressman John Lewis is a living legend and an icon of the civil rights movement. A central focus of Lewis's activism has been the fight for the right to vote, a right that until 1965, generations of African Americans had been denied.
When John Lewis was a teenager, he read in a comic book about what Dr. King had been doing in Montgomery. And he went to his parents and he says, I want to be part of this.
By 1963, John Lewis had helped organize demonstrations and sit-ins across the South. When he was elected chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that same year, he became one of the Big Six leaders of the civil rights movement and helped plan the March on Washington. At age 23, Lewis was the youngest person to speak at the event. But his most defining moment came 2 years later, when he turned his attention to voting rights and helped lead a dangerous civil rights march from Selma to Montgomery.
John Lewis was on the front lines of the 50-mile march, starting in Selma to Montgomery, demonstrating the murder of Jimmy Lee Jackson, a young African-American who was killed by a state trooper, but also the denial of African-Americans' right to vote across the South. If they could get the nation to zero in on Selma, Alabama, a place that had a large black population and very few African-Americans who were registered to vote, then perhaps there could be some action.
As activists marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, state troopers tear-gassed and beat them on what came to be known as Bloody Sunday. Lewis himself was severely beaten, suffering a fractured skull. 8 days after Bloody Sunday, President Lyndon Baines Johnson introduced the Voting Rights Act in Congress, and he would sign it into law in August 1965.
Today, we strike away the last major shackle of those fierce and ancient bonds.
The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was written on the road from Selma to Montgomery. The government responded and reacted to the power of the people.
John Lewis has helped secure the right to vote for millions of Americans. He's been on the front lines of the fight for civil rights for over 50 years. And the last time I checked, he was still fighting.
Too many people struggled, suffered, and died to make it possible for every American to exercise their right to vote. And we have come too far together to ever turn back. We must stand up, and speak out.
Our lessons are viewer supported. If you enjoy our lessons and they have been a help to you, please send the Women of Courage Show a donation. Any amount will help. $1 will help. Spread our message. You can also go to our website, touchedbythelight.us, and purchase the book, You Are the Prophet of Your Life. We support ourselves through book sales. The book is also on sale at the radio station WHPR 160 Victor Street in Highland Park, Michigan, right off of Woodward Avenue. If you do not have internet access, you can make a donation to us by mailing it to Post Office Box 7688, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan 48302. Your support will be greatly appreciated. This video was brought to you by the Women and Children's Restoration Ministries. Why not email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com and learn about the programs we have to assist women to fulfill themselves. We welcome women who wish to participate. Surely you have a few hours each month to help us with one of the many programs we are developing. Your expertise will be greatly welcome. We believe that one of our programs, Returning Citizens, The Wall Project, Black Women and Breast Cancer, and Teach Someone to Read, will interest you, where you might volunteer once a month to help us. Our primary function is to assist women in changing their lives for the better. Please email us today at murdervoices@gmail.com. We will appreciate your help. Thank you. This video was brought to you by the Women and Children's Restoration Ministries. Why not email us at murderedvoices@gmail.com and learn about the programs we have to assist women. We welcome women who wish to participate. Surely you have a few hours each month to help us with one of our programs. We believe that one of our programs, Recruiting Citizens, The Wall Project, Black Women and Cancer, Teach Someone to Read, will interest you, where you might volunteer once a month to help us. Our primary function is to assist women in changing their lives. Email us today. We would appreciate your help. We enjoy your listening to the Women of Courage show at WHPR every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. and every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m.